The recent film collectors convention hosted by the De Montfort University at the Phoenix Cinema and Arts Centre has got to have been the most ambitious we have ever attempted. The concept for this new kind of convention was John Franklin's idea, and we all got behind him. It snowballed though, and John was largely on his own to pull this one off, with the help of Professor Justin Smith and his team at the university. I came away from it on a bit of a high, but nothing is ever perfect though. All you can do is give it your best, and that is certainly what everyone involved did. We had around 200 of us there, which is quite an achievement, and it wasn't all film collectors by any means, but this did mean that we were showcasing film to a partially new audience. Simon Nichols presented two wonderful 35mm shows which provided us with cinema quality from his portable 35mm machine in a cinema. Mark Norton and Simon McConway from the Blackpool Film Collectors Convention were also a big part of the projection team, and Mark not only brought his Elmo GS1200 Xenon for the main Super 8 show, but also a sound system, just in case we couldn't successfully hook into the Phoenix Screen 1 sound system. We couldn't, and so Mark had his system out quicker than you can say. Film is fabulous. We had two dealer rooms, and John Franklin had been working tirelessly to ensure that there would be film on sale for avid film collectors to look through. Several of the tables were from collectors who had sadly died recently, so there were some rare and obscure items for those who managed to take a thorough look. There was also vintage equipment brought along for display, the like of which is rare to see even in a specialist museum. Patrick Malls was to be the special guest during the third and final panel discussion of the day, and he managed to not only bring a plethora of films of various gauges to put on sale, but also an impressive display of vintage projectors. Magic. John and Simon have often run the bring and buy tables at the British Film Collectors Conventions along with Patrick Malls, and it was fortunate they arrived early to Film is Fabulous because we had been let down at the last minute, and these two chaps saved our bacon. Help like this when you feel you have an insurmountable emergency is just wonderful. There are some very kind people in this hobby. Phil and Denise Sheard had a mammoth display from their unique Classic Home Cinema business. They'd brought a lorry load from their shop in Cleethorpes, and for anyone who had been thinking of dabbling in film at home, then this was the place to head for. Super 8 projectors were there for very little money, and some amazing film bargains to go with it. I was tempted by a couple of the full-length Disney titles, which are of exceptional quality, but fortunately I quickly realised I already had copies at home. I'll leave a link in the description for anyone who wants to visit the Classic Home Cinema shop in Cleethorpes, or perhaps just browse the amazing lists of film and equipment on their website. The biggest Super 8 dealer in the world now, but they do all film gauges and a lot more besides. Where else can you walk out of a shop with a film projector and a guarantee to go with it these days? The first panel discussion was focused on archiving, featuring Dr. Claire Watson of the Media Archive Central England, Steve Roberts of the BBC Archive, Steve Foxon of the British Film Institute, and was hosted by Sue Malden, who has had a working life in film archiving roles. Each of the panel discussions was followed by a film show presentation, and just like the Blackpool conventions and the British Film Collectors conventions, we had the projectors in the auditorium. This means that anyone attending can get a close look at the equipment and speak to the projectionists. Many young people have never even seen a film projected, let alone being able to get up close to a film projector, so these events offer the perfect opportunity.
I think the plan is to bring them all the way in.
Yeah.
Once everyone's up there. Can you shut the Daza? Yeah, Justin just said to do it.
God, that's the masking going all the way in, is it?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's quite nice sometimes with special shows. I like leaving the if there's a holding slide or something, I like leaving it on and then having the masking behind it looks quite nice. It looks special.
Works well, doesn't it? The second panel discussion was again hosted by Sue Malden, and this was the television discussion. Dick Fiddy is the founder of the Missing Believed Wiped annual television event held at the BFI's National Film Theatre. Paul Vanessis has produced and directed programmes for Channel 4 and the BBC, as well as other international broadcasters, and is today an independent freelancer, currently, I believe, working on the restoration of another Doctor Who series for Blu-ray release. He's also a film collector and therefore the ideal person to release the name of the latest missing television programme, which was a 1970 episode of The Basil Brush Show. But there are more to be announced, so it should be worth keeping an eye on the website filmisfabulous.org.uk. Mark Stuckey was introduced as a special guest during the second panel. Mark is one of the clever chaps who seems able to repair anything on the BBC television series The Repair Shop, which is made for the BBC by Ricochet. Mark had made the mistake of getting in touch with me via this channel about 3 years ago, and we've become good friends since then. He's a film collector, so you can probably work out why the two of us hit it off. He spoke extremely well about film collecting and the future of film, and revealed that the Repair Shop has something special coming up soon, featuring Mark restoring a disused, or maybe even dilapidated, 35mm cinema projector, which will be going back to work now its rebuild is completed. No prizes for guessing who suggested that idea. It was quite something to project Super 8 on a huge screen at the Phoenix. We hadn't exactly had time for rehearsals, so it was a case of turning up and doing the best we could in the time allowed. The aspect ratio for Super 8 scope is 2.66 to 1, so when the masking was fully retracted, it didn't open quite far enough. I decided to leave the overspill at the side so that we had around a 2.40 to 1 aspect ratio visible. When you think that the frame size from Super 8 is just 6mm wide, it is quite amazing how good it can look projected to about 30 feet wide, and probably wider than that when you consider it was overspilling the masking. Chris Ball was a big part of this event, and that was after making the mistake of volunteering to help following the 66th BFCC. Chris is a professional photographer, and so he got these shots of the projection area and just happened to be shooting when we were switching, or rather trying to switch, from Super 8 scope to 35mm scope. Simon's Porter Cine portable 35mm is quite harsh upon take-up, and the acetate leader broke for this show, which Chris just managed to capture. I would have been in panic stations, but Simon does this for a living at the Hereford Courtyard Cinema, so he took it in his stride. Nothing counts so much as experience. I'll leave a link to Chris's channel in the description for this video. This is the third panel discussion of the day, the feature films discussion, which was hosted by Professor Justin Smith of the De Montfort University and featured Joe Botting of the British Film Institute, who is curator of the fiction team, Dominic Simmons, who is head of cinema technology at the British Film Institute and in particular manages the running of the great BFI IMAX, and Patrick Malls, who has been a film collector from a very young age and today has one of the largest private libraries of films on all gauges in the UK, particularly his comprehensive 9.5mm collection. Rob Murphy's Splice Here, A Projected Odyssey was the day's highlight for many of us and brought the day to a fitting conclusion. We had quite a crowd in for that, and considering I've seen this documentary 3 times in my home cinema already and even have a Blu-ray on the way from Australia, it was great to see it anew on the huge screen with an audience. In my experience, it's been quite unusual to get a round of applause at the end of a film in a cinema, but this one succeeded, and quite right too. Rob is expecting that he will get worldwide distribution soon, so I'll leave the link to sign up to his email list so you'll be notified when home movie discs are first made available. This convention was the first event of its kind, and I came away feeling that I'd been involved in something rather special. It's a day and a weekend I'm never likely to forget, and all we have to do now is wait for the news and the reveals of more missing film and television programmes that have come about as a result of it, and hope that others consider it to have been successful enough to take it on to either something else or a follow-up event. Time will tell. So, until the next video, bye-bye for now.